This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to The Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast since 2015. A bunch of you guys listened to the last episode we did, and if you did not listen to the last episode we did, go back and listen to it. It was called Nice Guys Never Finish. It was the highest rated episode of the Great Love Debate podcast of this year. And the reason for that is I think the guys needed to listen, and they did. And the girls really like to listen to what the guys are doing wrong. And I'm not sure we talked about the guys doing wrong. It's just what the guys need to do a little bit better. And as I promised you guys last week, we're in the middle of 3 episodes devoted to this very topic about what I referred to on the last episode as the pussification of the American male, for lack of a better term. So I brought somebody in here today into our the studios of Pod Populi Podcast for the people here in Boca Raton, Florida. I don't know what the vehicle he's riding around on. We're going to have him explain this to a minute. It's definitely not for the timid, so maybe he has something to say. He is the host of the brand new Dating Concierge podcast. He did something, he still does it, this big fancy thing called the matzo ball. He helps dudes with their fine lady love. Is that fair?
Well, men and women.
Men and women. Mm-hmm. The women can find it. The men need some help. Andy Rudnick, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Can we describe what you're riding around on? What is that called?
That is called an electric unicycle.
It could not look more dangerous.
It's very dangerous. I've broken my ribs twice, but that's how much I love it because I just can't get enough of it. I still ride it.
How fast can that thing go?
That thing can go 37 miles an hour. And it goes
37 miles an hour is like a racehorse speed.
Yeah, especially when you're standing up and you hit a bump, boy. Oof.
And you sit on it or you stand on it?
Stand on it.
It's street legal?
It is. I think.
Are you right on the sidewalk?
No, it's street legal, but it's so new that the local government has not figured out how to police this thing yet. They see me zipping around and just going through red lights because it's no different than a bicycle.
How do you stop? How do you brake?
It works like a Segway. So
like you lean?
You lean forward. Basically, the weight of your body will drive it. So if you look
you're going 37 miles an hour.
I don't go 37 miles.
Okay, say you went 15 miles an hour. Yeah. How long does it take to stop?
Oh, immediately, like on a dime.
Well, you don't want to stop on a dime at 15 miles an hour, do you? If you stop on a dime 15 miles an hour, you're going over the non-existent handlebars.
Right. You don't want to. You try to ease into it just the same way you would with a car. But
right. But if you slam on your brakes in the car, you're probably going to be okay.
That's true. There's no seatbelt on this thing. Your seatbelt would stop you in the car. There's no seatbelt. You're going flying on this thing.
This looks brutal. Anyway, so.
But it's so much fun. Most fun I've had with my clothes on in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
It does not look fun, and as somebody who's broke,
try it.
I've broken way too many ribs. If you've broken 2, I don't want to break any more ribs. I have this theory. It's a 2-part theory, and the listeners of this podcast know this, that there has never been a better pool of men to date in this country, meaning the guys who are trying to date, they're more curious, they're more introspective, they realize they have to do better, there's things they have to do to solve the puzzle, they are asking the questions, they are doing the work, they are hiring the coaches and going to therapy, and they're doing all that stuff on one level. On the other hand, this same group of guys and a group of guys who sort of dropped out of the pool are more reluctant to make a move and make a mistake than ever before. Do you agree with that, or you're like, I don't have these problems, I don't know what you're talking about because I ride around an electric unicycle?
When you say problems that they're having, can you be more specific?
They're afraid of being rejected at a higher level than they have ever been before. When you were my age, or I was your age, I don't know how old you are.
I'm older than you.
You're older than me, but when I was in high school or college or whatever, I did not operate with the fear of being rejected all the time.
Right.
And a lot of guys, not only are they afraid of being rejected, they're afraid of being humiliated. They're afraid somebody's going to see them be rejected. They're afraid their rejection is going to end up on social media. How they're really, really thinking themselves in a point to complete inaction. I was like, if I went up to a girl and I tried to say hi and she said, fuck off, well, that was, oh, well, next.
Right.
Now it's so devastating that it got them like, I don't even want to try it anymore.
Well, certainly social media has definitely made it challenging because everything is out there and you want to be really careful what you do and what you say because it goes viral. And that could really hurt your game in a smaller city for sure. Back in the day when I used to go hunt.
Is that the term?
That's the hunt. Yeah, I had my spear and my loincloth and I would go hunting. It was easier and rejection was an issue. It was just part of the game.
Yeah, you'd go somewhere else.
You didn't care. Right, exactly. You just move on.
Yeah.
Today it's different. It's definitely more, people are definitely more careful with what they say and what they do, which, kind of takes away from the whole alpha male approach, which, from what I understand, women find more attractive.
It is, and they do find that more attractive. We sort of have said on the spectrum that if a 1 was a guy who was, wearing the pussy hat on his head and he had the I'm with her shirt and he was the wokiest of woke guy as a 1, and a knuckle dragging caveman was a 10, most women want a 7.
Yeah. Okay.
They want him slightly to the right of that. Not a total fucking asshole, but at least some guy with balls who's going to go get it. So the men now are overthinking this. They know they have to think now. That's progress. What should I do? What should I say? What is the right thing? That's good. They've gotten this, and you can relate to this sort of Jewish neuroses in every single man, and they're hearing the voice of their mother in their head, and they have gotten to the point so wound up that they are not doing anything. And they're like, you know what, I'll just play the video games and I'll just download the porn and I'll just do whatever. And they're not going out. And the women are extremely frustrating. It's like a bad school dance where all the women are lined up waiting for the guy to say, come dance with me. And the guys either aren't there or aren't doing it.
We find that women are more aggressive today though, right? In terms of approaching men.
They are. And, we've debated whether that's a good idea, yes or no, a bunch of times on this podcast. They feel like the aggression by the women is they want to be in control. Okay? They're like, if I can go to the one I want to talk to, then the guys I don't want to talk to, I don't have to deal with. But a lot of times the women don't really know which ones they want to talk to. They don't know which guys are the ones they should be talking to. So they're ruling out way more good possibilities than they are allowing a good one by theoretically taking the wheel. Mm-hmm. So, I'm always like, the guys are like, well, what should I do? And I'm always, it's very easy to say, stop worrying about it so much. Don't worry about what you're going to do.
Right, it needs to be more instinctive.
It needs to be like, if you do something terrible and she talks about it on social media, oh, well, they're worried about doing something not so terrible. And we run into this in a lot of cities. Like I've said this before, when we do our live show, when we do the Great Love Debate in New York City, hundreds of hands go up because the guy's like, if I get the microphone tonight, I'm going to get laid tonight. When I do the show in Seattle or Silicon Valley or a place like that, the guys are like, if I get the mic tonight, I'm going to get laughed at tonight. And it's such a fundamental difference in the way men approach being noticed, having the spotlight, being in control of what you're saying, that more of the country has turned into Seattle and not New York.
Sure. It's because of the news. I mean, the exposure that's out there and people just getting humiliated every day for the.
Is that your phone, by the way?
I'm sorry.
Is that your phone?
It is.
What is that? Okay. What were you saying about the news? They're worried about what?
I just think that, in the environment today, and if you watch the news and the way they just turn things into, turn the smallest thing into the biggest deal over nothing.
Yeah.
It does scare the crap out of
people. Yeah, the regular guy's worried about getting canceled.
Right. I mean, exactly. That's exactly what the issues are. Me, I operated differently, but I have not been single for a long time. However, there was a period that I was single. I did get that hall pass for about a year. The wife threw me out, so I was out there for a little while. So got a little taste of it.
And
it
so you were married for a long time.
Married for a long time.
You had a temporary separation.
You
dove back into the The deep end of the pool or the shallow end of the pool? Which is the better end of the pool?
I gotta say, at first it was I was overwhelmed, and I wasn't used to dealing with the apps and what was out there. But once I kind of got the hang of it, and once I kind of figured out the right opening remark to kind of
right,
draw the blood, so to speak,
so to speak,
it was really convenient, I have to say. I mean, I didn't even have to pick these girls up. I'd Uber them in, Uber them home. I mean, it was fantastic.
You didn't take them out.
It was well, the best part.
It was COVID,
right? I mean, come on.
There's a lot of dating success stories. So, but you were in the sort of the singles business for a long time while you were married. So
yes,
you must.
Yes. I actually met my wife at one of these events. Yeah.
So you must have been always thought about it. Well, what would it actually be like to be in there? Because you dealt with all these people and you heard there's frustrations.
I watched it. I could feel the pain. Watching these guys walk around aimlessly with a drink in their hand. I remember when I was 22 years old, and I remember this vividly. I was 22. I just started doing the singles parties, and I saw a guy like 33 walking around with his suit and tie on at one of these parties inside a nightclub. You could tell he was stressed out. He was nervous. His drink is in his hand. And I said to myself, I better not be that guy. I'm 20. And then I'm 33 years old. I'm single. I've just broken up with somebody. And I'm at a singles event walking around with a drink in my hand. I go, holy shit, I'm that guy.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
I became that guy. And then I was like, wow, I need to get the hell out of here. And I went right down to the nightclub where I saw this girl that turned me on. And I just had the nerve to go right up to her, and I asked her out. And truthfully, the next night, we ended up going out for dinner the next night, and I asked her to marry me on the first date. And this is my wife for 20 years. Mm-hmm. But it took that nerve. It took that, going to that place where that dark place. And when I hit that rock bottom, when I found myself there with that drink in my hand at this, nebbishy Jewish singles party where a 4 thought she was a 10, and she looked like a 10 at this place. It was unbelievable, right? I mean, boy.
So there's that's a good point. All of us at 22 or 23, we looked down to the end of the bar. We saw a guy who was 30, and we were like, I don't want to be that guy.
You're right.
Because 30 seems so old at 23. And then at 30, you are that guy, and then you look down and you see 40, I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
And we constantly do it. I got news for everybody out there. If you're 40 and you're single, you're fucking killing it. That is the spot. The sweet spot
Have
for
you
a
been
man
married before?
is no. The sweet spot is 35 to 49. Okay? Those guys, the pool for that pool of single guys, they have a little bit of money. They should have a little bit of confidence.
Right.
They should have things to talk about, is pretty much from 21 to 55. They have a giant pool, which is why it's always so frustrating for the women in their late 30s and early 40s. They're like, why won't these guys go out with me? They have too many choices. So if you're sitting there at 24 and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be the loser at 35 or 45, be the loser at 35 or 45. You missed out on a lot of years, my friend, because you were married all that time.
Right.
So when you came out there for that 1 year, was it like landing on a different planet from where you left off 20 years ago?
It was craziness because, I couldn't believe how easy it was. In terms of meeting women, I did not have to go to the bar. First of all, we couldn't even go to the bars, but I did start prior to COVID and whatnot. So I was out there for a little while in the bars. And just the accessibility with what's online just make it unfair.
Why?
Unfair.
So I asked this question, though. Why is online, I'm not saying you're wrong on that. There are some aspects of that. Is the reason why the accessibility online seems like a bigger pool, because it's not really a bigger pool than planet Earth, because the fear of rejection, it's not face-to-face. Because if you went through 3 hours of online scrolling, it's not as many women as you would run into within a mile of where we're taping this right now if you just walked around.
True.
So the pool is not necessarily bigger. You can't target it, and the face-to-face fear of rejection is what all of us have now. It's people. It's one thing if somebody either swipes left or they just delete you or block you or fuck off or whatever. People have lost the ability to do what we used to have to do. We used to have to walk across the room and say something. And we thought it was rough. The guys back in the 50s had to walk across the room and say, would you like to dance with me? And then dance with her. And they weren't probably getting any action. They were in a suit and they had to do, that was a whole bad thing.
I had a system.
Right. What was your system?
I had a system and it worked. and it still works. A puppy.
Puppy works.
Puppy works,
Yeah.
boy. Let me tell you. And I would go to bars that I wouldn't bring the wingman because you just never knew. If you took the one that was too good looking, he'd screw it up for you. And if you took the one that wasn't so good looking, he'd screw it up for you.
Because you're like, I don't have a friend for him.
That's it, right? So, but the girls always run in packs, right? They're always